This is Sexy Funny Raw, where we chat all about the world of sex, from dating and relationships all the way to the adult industry itself. I'm Silvia Saige, and this is my Pornspective, answering all the questions you weren't even brave enough to ask Google. Get ready, because Sexy Funny Raw starts now. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. I am Silvia Saige, and this is Sexy Funny Raw. And of course, I am joined in studio with my co-host, Dr. Eddie, giving us his public health perspective. Thank you, Dr. Eddie. And in studio with us this month, you guys, I am very excited to introduce the very handsome, very sexy, and very talented male performer, Adam Ramzi, to the show.
Hello. How's it going, Silvia? Hi, Dr. Eddie.
So good. So happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored and flattered.
What's funny is you spend a lot of time in this exact studio.
I sure do.
On your very own podcast.
In this chair.
That's your chair?
There was almost a part of me that was like hoping I was in one of the other ones, but just, this is my angle, I guess.
Yeah, that's your chair. That's all you get.
We can switch it if you like.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm comfortable.
And your podcast, it's, let me ask a question.
It's called Sorry for Asking.
Sorry for Asking.
Yeah.
Damn it.
With me and with Cole Connor, who is also another performer in the gay adult industry.
Yeah.
And we basically, the point of the podcast is really just to kind of highlight the creation as well as consumption of gay adult content and how it's shaped us as queer people over the years.
Love that.
Yeah. It's been great.
Yeah. And people have so
loving
much to learn also. And people are always just so curious about the industry, right?
For sure. And I wanted to make sure that we kind of approached it all from a really thoughtful place. I mean, fluff is fun and we do have room for that. We do leave room for that, but I wanted it to be much more than whose dick do you like better?
Right.
Even though that is fun too.
I love knowing those things. Yeah.
Yes,
Don't we all?
I love sharing those things. But yeah, I wanted to make sure that it was a little educational, a little enlightening, and really funny. We all have stories in this industry. So it's really funny to share. It's fun to share those stories.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, today we might be sharing some of those stories.
Boom.
Because today we are going to be talking about rejection and how you handle rejection, whether in the industry or outside of the industry. I know I have felt so much rejection in Hollywood in general, not just the adult industry, in Hollywood, ageism, all of it. Have you felt like you've experienced a lot of rejection or very minimal because you're just so handsome?
I was going to make a joke about never having been rejected, but I'm realizing maybe that's not funny.
But believable, nonetheless.
I've definitely experienced rejection over the years in a variety of ways, romantically, sexually, and certainly within the industry. But some of the advice I give people who are in the industry is how to take a lot of things with a grain of salt.
Yes.
None of it is that serious. And if you have that self-awareness, which I spent a long time cultivating for myself, being in the adult industry actually kind of helps you deal with rejection a little better.
I would agree with that.
You know?
Yeah.
Do you feel that you've experienced it that way as well?
I would definitely say that because I had agents in the industry early on basically tell me, look, the industry is done with you. And I thought, well, that's interesting because I don't think the fans are done with me yet. So I found my strength in my fan base, and I don't really work for companies anymore. So I'm like, I don't necessarily need the porn industry. So I kind of felt a little rejection from them. And I've always felt rejection come award season, always nominated, never a winner. So it's those type of things. And I always tell myself, like, I don't need an award for porn, but damn it, I would really like an award for porn.
Yeah.
So.
I sometimes have wondered that because I've been in the industry 10 years now.
Yeah,
and
I'm 9. I'm right there behind you.
Yeah, really. I've been nominated so many times at so many award shows. I've only won like a couple.
But you've won.
I have won.
Yeah.
You've never won?
Never for anything.
See, I never cared about any of it. And sometimes I even thought like, am I really just being nominated so we fulfill our brown person quota in these nomination categories? But I will say, especially at one of the big award shows, getting called up to win an award and accept it is really fun. It's really fun.
Of course, it's just that moment where you are being celebrated.
Yeah.
And there isn't a single one of us, I don't care who you are, that little kid inside of you is so excited to go up and grab that award. And, have everybody clapping for you.
Yeah.
And you're like, I did it. I totally get that.
Yeah.
100%. And I want that feeling.
Yeah, I want that for you. I want you to experience it. Thank me when it happens.
Yeah. Did you ever feel like, because you mentioned the brown aspect, and that sometimes you feel like maybe you're just being put in as like the token brown guy. Did you feel rejection because of your skin color ever?
I have in the past, certainly. I think that I am in a lot of ways, and I want to preface this by saying, like, I've dealt with this. I don't feel this is not a woe is me story at all. But I feel that I sometimes fall for some people into a niche category,
right?
Because not only the color of my skin or my racial and ethnic background, but also like I have a very severe face. I think sometimes people don't know what to do with that. I have these very like, Jafar meets Aladdin kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like it's interesting for me because and this is a weird perspective for me to have, because I have experienced people literally tell me that I am the most beautiful thing they've ever seen.
Aww.
And in the same night been like completely ignored and looked through by others, because if I am not your type, I'm kind of invisible to some people.
Okay.
And I'm kind of actually weirdly grateful for that, because I feel like if it was all just handed to me all the time, I might be a monster. So many are. Exactly.
I mean, I can
privilege
feel
is
that.
poison.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, no, I can definitely feel that. I don't know. I feel like my rejection in the real world almost feels harder because I feel like by society I'm almost rejected as a human. I know, Dr. Eddie, you had mentioned in here that that the rejection is reinforced by society, and you mentioned it in the opposite way of how if you're being told no by a partner or being told no by a potential partner, that can like being told no is something is wrong with you, as opposed to where I feel the opposite. I feel like because I'm being told yes to sex, society is like, well, now that makes you not worthy because I've accepted sex. I don't know. So it's
maybe in some categories you get rejected.
I just feel like in society in large, being rejected as me as a person.
Okay.
Especially by intimate others, or a lot of times just by peers in general.
Yes, I know what you're talking about, and I have experienced this as well. I feel like sometimes when you're placed on this pedestal because you're in adult films, or you look a certain way, or you present a certain way, and you take care of yourself, sometimes that, especially by certain people, the pedestal is left alone. It's like, we don't go there. And like, I feel like just a big dork on the inside. Like I don't feel like I had a friend of mine who like I really like, this is someone I consider a close friend. He told me recently that, do you guys watch The Other Two? Do you know that show?
No.
Well,
I know the show.
Oh, okay.
So I'll keep this brief, but like there's like a running joke where like one of the main characters, who's kind of this dorky gay guy, he has this funny relationship with insta-gays who are like, gay guys who have like 1 million followers and are kind of like, oh my God, you're so funny. Let's post this selfie and get branding from from Glad trash bags.
Yeah.
He told me that our relationship reminded him of that. And I was like, I was so insulted by that. I was like, what?
Like you're his Instagram boo or something?
And I don't feel that way at all, and I'm not. And he clarified what he meant. He's like, I don't think you're one of those, but he said, but our relationship reminds me of that like comparison. And I was like, damn, the pedestal
is kicked
it's
out.
It's like a lonely place sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like I'm on a pedestal. I don't place myself on a pedestal.
Same. I never feel like I'm on a pedestal.
No.
Do you think that people maybe try and get close to you because of the brand?
Sometimes sometimes, yes.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've generally been pretty good at catching that. It's actually the other thing that hurts more is when like I get close to people and they have this sort of like arm's length thing they're doing with me. I've been told a couple times after sex, were you performing? And I'm kind of like, what?
Wow.
No.
Well, that's a compliment. I feel like.
Yeah, I understand that perspective too, but I'm kind of like.
I would love if someone asked me that. Like, yes, that's an every time.
Yes,
That's
exactly
what
right.
it is.
I was like, no, I was being real. I just get really passionate and excited about sex, and I was clearly feeling that way toward you. So, like, why can't we forget? Separate, exactly, compartmentalize, like.
But speaking of that,
Sure.
Are you dating inside or out of the industry? Is this somebody that was in the industry, or is this a civilian?
The couple times that has happened, maybe 3 or 4 times, it was always a civilian.
Yeah.
One of the times it happened was with somebody who I was in a 3-year relationship with, who it started out with him having some kind of reservations and a little bit of judgment about me being in the industry. But I was able to tease out that really it was because of his own intrigue.
Right.
And he actually ended up becoming a part of the industry. And he's actually
Okay.
doing really well.
Good for him.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously in that instance, like the rejection made him stronger and made him resilient and, got him to where he wanted to be, which I think sometimes the rejection might be the best thing in some situation.
So I have seen, this is something I also tell a lot of people, because like people come to me for advice about the adult film world and like whether they should enter it, and I'm just always like, it's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
And I have seen the adult film world bring grown ass men down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if you can't handle feeling like the least attractive one on like a location shoot.
Yep.
If you can't handle someone not returning your flirtatious advances.
Yeah.
I mean, like I've seen it really bring some people to a low place.
Yeah.
And people talk about this all the time, that in the gay adult industry, like we've had suicides, like full on people feeling like they just don't have anything else to offer.
Right.
And if the calls aren't coming in, they exit stage left. It's horrible.
I mean, I hear that all the time, especially from men in the industry on our side as well, because I feel like we have so very few men that work in the straight side that they're either working all the time or they're not at all. And the moment they find out that they're not really working, they just like, well, I guess, this isn't for me, hang their head low and get out. And, it's got to be a tough place for them to be, that this just wasn't it for them. But I mean, I just watched somebody leave the industry, which somebody we just had on our. I just created a game show with our mutual friend, and one of the kids we were supposed to shoot with, he won, and we were going to shoot content with him, and he messaged us and he was like, I moved back to Europe. I obviously just can't fix it here. I just can't cut it here. But thank you guys so much. And it was very sad because he's just a kid.
What was the reason?
He just wasn't getting booked.
Oh,
and that's really what it is. But I mean, I don't know how it is on the gay side, but when you do not perform as a man, multiple shoots, say 2, 3 max, where you fail, no one will book you
in the straight
longer.
world.
Yeah.
When you say you don't perform, do you mean like?
So I mean, either they can't retain, can't keep an erection, or can't come to orgasm at the end.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, and probably word gets around in the industry too.
Of course it does.
In the gay world, it's kind of similar. Like I feel like we the erection is like the prized.
Yeah.
Like that is it's so dependent. Like a shoot is so dependent on whether an erection is.
It's everything
working or not. Like so. So yeah, I've definitely seen it. I've seen that happen to a few performers where they're just like, maybe this isn't for me.
Yeah.
There's just so many variables that go into that erection.
That's so true,
right,
as
for
well.
Men. And so it's not just physical health, of course, which we all have, but all the mental health variables and the stigma and all of these relationship things that we're talking about. All of these combined are what create like whether you can or can't, or how hard it is for that matter. So I just think it's a complicated issue when we're valuing so much with that erection or with what people look like or whatever those things are. And so there's so much of that in society in general that, again, the adult film industry is like a microcosm of everything that's actually happening everywhere.
Totally.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
But what I was saying earlier about sometimes the rejection being like a benefit, sometimes I feel like like with your relationship where you're talking about like that ending, but you guys both like, you're very good friends and you both been on to bigger, better places, and it made you both better as people. So I think sometimes we're meant to have these rejections to lead us to different places in our lives. And I don't think it's always a negative to have a rejection, you know?
Yeah. But so many people in the industry, I would say, don't have that self-awareness.
Yeah.
And it really shows up in moments of rejection. Yeah. Especially now that we're making our own content now.
Yes.
There's so many more opportunities for these feelings to arise. Like, I have so many friends who make their own content who, if they'll reach out to somebody and like won't hear back and will just like
they hate
spiral
me.
about it. And then they'll see them film with somebody else and be like, oh, I must not be good enough because they're filming with that person. Sometimes it even manifests in weird things where they'll be like, oh, they're filming with that person and not me, but I'm more attractive than them, which means like there must be something wrong with this person. There's just so many weird avenues for us to feel ugly feelings about it.
Yeah. Well, and not to mention, especially in the industry alone, I mean, there's so many body types, and you mentioned earlier not being everyone's like cup of tea, and I feel that all the time, you know, but there's just so much going on, and I'm usually the oldest person on set by a good decade, you know, and I'm always playing someone's mom, so like comparing my body to the kid I hate saying that, to the younger individual in the film who I'm playing their mom, I'm always like, it's really hard not to compare my 40-year-old body to their 20-year-old bodies, you know, and even then, like you mentioned, can you handle not being the hottest person on set? That is a place you really have to go in your brain also. Like, I always just try and be like, yeah, but you're the most mature on set. You're the one who knows what's happening here. So I mean, I
can't imagine a world where you're never not the hottest person on set. But I understand these feelings. We all have them. You could be the hottest person in the world and still feel that sometimes. We all it's natural.
Yeah.
How about when the rejection isn't actually rejection, but it's perceived rejection, right? I think that there's different kinds of rejection. And so there's moments and instances where we're engaging with other people where you might feel like you're being rejected in some way, whether that's emotional, sexual, physical, whatever.
Absolutely.
But it's not actually the case. And we've gotten so bad at communicating generally, I think, as a society, that I'm curious to know if you've kind of encountered anything like that before.
It's such a common story.
Yeah.
It's not rejection, it's projection.
Yeah. What is that? It's not you, it's me. That old saying. Yeah.
It's not you, it's me. I mean, like, the thing is,
rejection, though.
Is it?
Well, I mean, that's a different side of it. But I understand. We can also say that, like, it's not them, it's us. Like if it's really just like,
it's usually that.
It's often that. I think we just feel insecure and unseen and unheard and unwanted because, like, I think we sometimes place expectations on certain situations when we're hoping to. And can I also ask you guys this? Like, the thing is, when we're doing this in the adult film world, it's not like a romantic situation. It's not necessarily even an intimate situation.
Right.
It's technically work.
Yeah.
But there is a level of vulnerability involved because you're sexual. You are portraying an intimate situation on camera.
Yeah.
So it gets very complicated because if you're not able to really, like,
compartmentalize.
Yeah. Because you're thinking, like, why am I being rejected? Is it because my numbers aren't good enough, or because I'm a hideous Quasimodo and nobody wants to work with me anymore? And so
clearly it's the latter.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, this is where
those thoughts go on.
Sure.
Yeah. So like you were saying, it's like a microcosm of what happens in the real world, but you also add to this extra layer where it's business and. It's very interesting, and I think I wish there was a better way to educate up and coming performers on how to handle this kind of stuff.
I've said that for a really long time, and not even just, I mean, the financial and the mental abuse that you're going to be under, the emotional, all of it. Yeah.
I wonder how that plays into, we have like an uptick in people performing because you don't have to do films to perform anymore.
Right.
Now everybody can do it on their own, kind of.
Do you mean like studios? You don't have to do studios anymore?
Right.
Gotcha.
So everybody can have like their own camera and do it at home, and whether you engage with other people or not. And so I wonder what the relationship is there for the new people coming in. because rejection might be you're not getting paid in Bitcoin or whatever that is.
Or not getting booked by that, XYZ studio, like
Right.
I get that because
Fair
they're
enough.
not worried about like what I'm worried about. Like I want to make sure I only go shoot for Brazzers and Naughty America and like the big companies,
Right.
like that. They're not even worried about that. They're just worried about the clicks that they get on their own personal site, which would be nice, but I'm sure they also get negative comments in those comment sections,
I would imagine.
People do not know how to just be nice or shut your fucking mouth.
Yeah.
Don't understand.
That's a space where that's become the norm.
Yeah.
And it's the anonymity of it
Yeah.
becomes a space where people can be like their true, vicious, nasty selves.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually kind of a funny segue from what we've been talking about is getting rejected by the public
Yes.
on some levels,
Yeah.
whether outwardly and openly and verbally on like the Twitter hellscape or like, by just like people not subscribing to your stuff.
Yeah.
I am telling fellow performers constantly, don't engage
Yeah.
with people who say nasty things about
Yeah.
you. Like, that to me, that's not star-like behavior.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, don't get into Twitter wars with
Because
strangers.
now it's almost an expectation that the performers that you follow and the super fans
Have some
engagement,
interaction,
right?
yeah.
And so they are pursuing you because of that interaction. It's
Yeah.
a different
Yeah.
level now, right? They didn't have to deal with this in the 80s. For sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And so by doing that, maybe that's creating some form of individual connection.
I've started killing those people with kindness. The people that when they do a negative, nasty
Sure.
comment, I just say something like smart, and I'm like, "But thank you for your energy. I will be sure to use it for positive." Like,
That's
Well,
good.
rage can be very useful.
It
Yeah.
can, but maybe not on Twitter.
yeah,
Fair
yeah.
enough.
Not useful.
Yeah, no, the general public can be the most brutal because you're right. There, it's the anonymity, and there's no one,
Yeah.
pointing them out. And I'm sure as hell not going to take the time to go down the rabbit hole to find out who you are, Mr. User 56924.
Yeah, right.
Like I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like your time, like what you're doing in your life is not worth my time, and
Yeah.
I almost wish that what I was doing wasn't worth yours.
Right. Right. Almost.
Almost, yeah. I still want the clicks.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Please subscribe.
Is there a time where you've encountered rejection from society at large because of your work in the adult film industry? So not so much at the level of fans or people on Twitter, but society in general, where people are perhaps rejecting you because you're an adult film star, and there's like these stigma and expectations for that type of person, which is completely false and bullshit, but it still exists.
Yeah.
Have you encountered anything like that?
Thankfully, not a lot of it. I think what I get more is I get underestimated a lot. That's mostly what happens. Is I get underestimated. I think people. It's just really easy to think that if you're an adult film performer or if you're in the sex work industry in some level that you must not be smart, you
Yep.
must not be talented, you must not be educated. The only one of the times that I think I felt actually rejected and I really had to work through it, and it ended up becoming something kind of positive in the moment, was the reason I even got into porn was I went for a master's degree in LGBT psychology.
Oh, nice.
So I was working toward my my MFT license, which I didn't end up getting, but I still saw a lot of clients. Those were some of the times when I would have clients come in. I wondered if it was because they knew that I was also Adam Ramzi. But there were 2 times, I think, where a client who I had established a really good rapport with, we were doing like really good work. They were like, so I found some pictures and videos and I don't think I could come back.
Wow.
And it was like, okay,
Gosh, but that seemed like it was about them, though. Don't you think?
so
Yeah.
yes, of course, and that's what I ended up doing. Was I with both of those times that I can recall, I asked them, please come in for a wrap up session,
Right.
and they did. And we came in, and I made sure it wasn't like, so why don't you want to see me anymore?
Right.
I was like, let's talk about what it was for you. Like, when you found this out about me, what did this bring up for you? Like, tell me, and it ended up being both times beautiful sessions.
Wow.
Like, really worthwhile stuff that got them to kind of look at their own shame, their own weird feelings of being sexually open and free and liberated.
That's such a brilliant brilliant point and a great way to go about something like that, because I think that is such a valid question. And a lot of people, if you ask them that, they wouldn't know how to respond to it because they don't know exactly what it is that's so wrong with it, because they're having sex. They have a job.
They're certainly watching.
Their job is just not sex, you know?
Well, but if you're attracted to your therapist, which maybe they were ahead of this, and then this creates an environment where maybe this is no longer the right therapist for you.
Right.
All of those things are certainly possibilities.
And I was very clear that I was open to that. And I understand that sometimes the transference that happens is strong enough as it is.
Yeah.
So if you're also seeing your therapist, like, you know, now you know what his O-face looks like. It's a little complicated. I totally get it.
But the therapist is already a huge, like, sexual fantasy anyway.
Power dynamics there, or that constantly at play. Sure. We play with those all the time in different types of adult films, right?
Definitely. Yeah. The sexy therapist.
Yeah. I think I've been a sexy therapist.
I'll bet you have.
I bet you both have.
Yeah.
Right? And if you haven't, Adam.
Yeah.
You probably should be.
Now is the time.
We'll
right.
You have the previous knowledge also, so you'd at least have the verbiage down. I feel pretty good about that. Is there anything else you think you want to bring up, Dr. Eddie?
You know, I now that you mention it, I think maybe like a key point that I'd like everybody to kind of at least think about and walk away with is maybe that sometimes we have these feelings of rejection, whether they're perceived or emotional, and these feelings aren't necessarily fact, and so they're messages that your body's giving you.
Right.
And so whether we listen to them or whether we interrogate them a little bit further, I think these are steps that we need to take.
Yeah.
It seems like more and more we're often taking our feelings as facts.
Yeah.
Like, I feel this way, I was rejected, that is it. And that becomes problematic because whether that's perceived or real can change and distinguish entire relationships.
Yeah.
Whether that's friendships, sexual relationships, whatever it may be. And I think that distinction and trying to at least interrogate our own ideas about how our feelings and how we respond to those feelings, right? Them being messages and not facts, I think is an important maybe takeaway that you might not get anything from it, but maybe interrogate how you react to some things.
Yeah.
That could change the way we interact, and maybe we'd be a little bit nicer and kinder because there's not much kindness happening right now.
Yeah. No, I think that's a beautiful way to put it, because your feelings feel factual to you on a regular basis, you know, and they feel like it is something you cannot change, it is something you cannot erase, and those feelings of rejection especially, I know I'm guilty of carrying them with me. You know, I've been single for 15 years and I've just assumed that it's like, well, it's me, I'm just not a good girlfriend, and I have just made this the truth in my head, but I know it is not fact. It is, you know, circumstance. And but yeah, I always feel the rejection from the world, and I'm always like trying to be my own biggest cheerleader and you know, convince myself
it's just
otherwise.
Your body giving you messages, right?
Yeah.
And so how we want to respond to them, you as both of you as entrepreneurs and industrious people have been able to overcome those in different ways that others perhaps can't. And that distinction, I think, is really important too, because we put adult film stars in like a bubble sometimes. But I don't see any of you guys that way, only because everyone I know is an incredible like brand and entrepreneur and incredible business person, because that's actually what it is that you guys do.
Right.
Your business is something specific that some people might have a problem with, but all of you are pretty incredible in the entrepreneurial sense and the branding sense. I learned from you guys all the time about branding. And so I think all of these things are somewhat related.
Yeah.
I think it really boils down to self-awareness.
Yeah.
Like, I wish there was a better way to teach the world at large, the human population, a little bit about self-awareness, because we'd be able to handle all of these emotions so much better. Feelings are messages, not facts. I'm totally stealing that. I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Self-awareness will get you there.
Yeah. It's true. Well, and we're not all self-aware.
No.
As much as we
most are not.
Yeah.
Certainly here in LA, it becomes even more difficult.
Yeah.
Because I encounter people daily that are not self-aware.
Well, it's also imposter syndrome of everybody just trying to, you know, fake it till you make it out here too. So,
agreed.
Yeah. Well, I thought this was a great episode. Thank you so much, Adam. Can you tell the people where they can find you?
Yes. You can find me on Instagram at PrinceJasmine_ or on Twitter at Adam Ramzi _XO. And Ramsey is spelled with a Z-I.
Love it. Thank you so much, Adam. And thank you, Dr. Eddie, for your public health perspective. We appreciate you so much. And until next time, guys, adios.